Hi everyone, welcome back. In this episode, why do you want a Margo? But before we get into that, I'm just going to quickly run through my outfit. I'm wearing a Massimo Dutti shirt, a linen one. I really can't wait for summer. I love linen. And then my old AMI Paris skirt. I'm wearing a Talje belt. I think that's how you pronounce it. And in my ears, I have these really pretty earrings by Bevza. They are inspired by wheat. They just make every outfit pop, and the gold is really rich and very pretty, and they're not that heavy. I really love them. And I'm sitting here with my belted Margo 15 in saddle leather. This video, I had been intentionally waiting on weighing in on Margo madness because I was hoping it would settle, but it really hasn't. And I'm sure you've seen many videos now on the Margo bag. You're probably inundated with them, and I don't want to add to the noise. It's too noisy, but I do want to add my 2 cents because I'm continually getting questions on how I feel about the rise of the Margo. The reason I thought this might be a good time for me to produce this video is because I came across this post on Grailed for the Margo bag, and just take a look at that price. And I couldn't not address it. I posted on Instagram and with a couple of stories that followed to say, you know, don't do it. Just don't do it. I've had, like, since the rise of the Margo, I've had many more messages and many more emails asking me to authenticate their bags. And just so you know, the ROW will not authenticate. There's a liability associated with telling someone whether it is or isn't fake. And then so they come to me. Yes, I do have a lot of experience with the bag. I have seen many iterations of them because I've seen them from the beginning. But even I am having a hard time now because the replicas are just that good. But I've seen some obvious fakes as well, and people think they're real, and then they've spent $4,000, they're trying to recoup their money. It's just not worth it. And so I also posted this story to say that, I mean, I think you need to ask why you want the bag. It's alarming how many messages come to me from people who are absolutely desperate to get their hands on a Margo. And people are impulse buying a $6,000 bag. I mean, if you have that kind of disposable income, great. But even at my age, you know, if I had a career behind me, I am mindful and thoughtful about my Margo bag purchases because they're big ones. They're big purchases. The whole reason I started this channel was sort of you know, in an attempt to educate, and because I have a passion for the ROW. And when I buy a Margo, what you don't see often is what's heading out the back door. I mean, I sell things and to make room. I don't just like very lightly make a purchase like that. I don't. And then when it comes with this desperation, I remember I must have been a decade ago. I'm sure you might recall more when this bag was popular, but I was at Bergdorf's. So there was a woman on a chair in the Chloe corner, and it was a Bergdorf's associate, and she was standing on the chair and she was calling out names and handing out bags, and it was the Paddington. Remember that one with the lock on it? And it just took about 15-20 minutes to go through the names, and they said, that's it, you know, I'm sorry, we don't have any more. And people were like, women were almost in tears when their name wasn't called, and I saw a lot of negotiating going on, and I just thought it's just frightening what we are willing to do to get our hands on a bag. And I think I understood it better then, but I'm in a very different mindset now. So the Margo, for me, at first we saw it in 2018, and that alligator's gorgeous, and it's really lovely. And I remember back then wanting a Margo bag, and one of the reasons I wanted it was because no one really knew what it was, and it wasn't flashy. Back then, when you carried a Margo, people would notice your overall style, and they weren't necessarily drawn to the bag because it didn't have a logo. They might not even ask you about it. They might just think, oh, that woman's got really lovely style. And typically the women that carried the Margo back then were, you know, had a masculine boy meets girl look, oversized, a little edgy. That really went with the look of the Margo bag. This is not a video trying to dissuade you from buying the bag at all. I love it, but it's shelved for the moment because of all the chatter and the talk about it. And So a couple of things. One, that now that it's really done well, my guess is if I were a brand and my bag was doing this well, I'd want to claw it back. I'd want to take ownership of it. That's why we're seeing them nowhere except the ROW website and I believe in store. I think that this is where that argument I used to make to my husband when I was wanting my first Margo. Incidentally, I paid around 2,000 or 2,500 Canadian for my first Margo bag on sale because they couldn't move it. That was not too long ago. But I used to say, hey, it's an investment. But really, it's not an investment until you get an ROI that's positive and really healthy. And so as much as I wanted to make that case, it wasn't really arguable. I think it's too early to tell whether it's going to be an investment bag. I think we don't have enough data. We need more time. There needs to be scarcity and more price increases and more demand, continuing demand. What we've seen now is a real peak of it, and it could just be that it's a trend, it could be that it goes away, or it could be a forever desired bag. So the article wasn't wrong, but the article really did create frustration among loyalists, is the easiest way for me to say it. And the Margo bags are plenty. There are a few different sizes. There's the 7 since retired, there's the 10 that has the strap, the 12 has the strap, the 15 and the 17. A lot of the new people want the 12 or the 15 because it's the middle of the ROW bag. And I think that you'll all eventually graduate and get a 17 because even I thought the 17 was too big for me at 5'2", but because they're producing mostly the canvas lined and leather lined bags, they're a little sloppier and slouchier and they don't look as big on the body. And the handles on the 17 are a little longer. So you have the ease of being able to carry it on the shoulder. And absolutely, I prefer that over the 15 now, even though I have more 15s because that's how I started out. And the other thing I wanted to mention is about the leather. So I was in the winter 2024 showroom in Paris recently, and I wasn't at the show. About the show, it was small, and normally they have a couple hundred people. It was very small. It was friends and family only, some journalists and buyers. And a lot of people didn't, even a lot of the regulars didn't get their invites this round. And it was, as you know, the controversy around asking people not to film. But here's my 2 cents on that. If I invite you to my home for dinner and I ask you at the door, please take your shoes off, and you don't, I think it's rude. So for the people that filmed and then posted it, you may not like those rules, but once you're in their house, about the leathers, the leather on the 17 bag, which was seen in the closing look of the 2024 collection, it's like butter. I felt it. I couldn't believe how soft it was. It was just like nothing else. I mean, this saddle, nothing compared to that saddle leather. And so it's continually improving. I mean, I felt like if I closed my eyes, like, is it cashmere or is it leather? It's that soft. It's so nice. And the handles, over the last 3 years, I've had many, many questions about the handles. Handles on the inside, handles on the outside, what does it mean? And I really didn't know. I was studying my bags and I was asking and no one could answer. I assumed that the handles on the inside were reserved for the bags lined in suede and lined in leather. But then I went back and saw my picture of my gray suede lined pebbled Margo, which I have since sold, and it had suede on the inside, but the handles were on the outside. What I've come to understand, and handles on the inside are the top of the line Margo. They're going to be reserved for the most expensive outside of the alligator bag, which is the most expensive and has the handles on the outside, unless they plan on changing that. It's really a style preference, and I think a lot of people want the handles that are sewn on the outside. I like both because I mean, my first Margo was with the handles on the inside. And so obviously it's really just pull at my heartstrings to see those older ones, especially when I see them out and about, then I kind of know, oh, that may be one of the originals, and it's pretty cool. If you really want it, I would suggest adding your name to a wait list because that gives you time to think about it and decide whether you're buying it for the right reasons. And there are a lot of people new to the ROW now and discovering the line and hopefully move into the collection because it's beautiful. I mean, they make coats and shoes and other bags that are great. And so I'm happy for the brand, happy that the bag is doing well. I hear the frustration of the loyalists, and I'm certainly frustrated by seeing it everywhere. And yet I also like seeing the excitement. I'm a bit of cognitive dissonance about it because I'm excited for newcomers, but also, you know, a little worried for people that are spending that much money. I mean, hopefully it does retain, hold, and increase in value. So if you've made a mistake by purchasing it and you find out I really didn't love it, maybe you sell it later. That is all the information I have to give you on that. And I am trying to get back to my standard reviews. I am trying. Bear with me.